Yeah, I think two of the most costly words in business and in life are I forgot. I forgot to do it. I forgot to bring it. I forgot that meeting. I forgot what I was going to say. I forgot that conversation. I forgot that person's name. Every time you think those words or say those words, you lose opportunity, you lose credibility, you lose trust. You could even lose a sale also as well. The thing is what everyone needs to know is that there's no such thing as a good or bad memory. There's a trained memory and there's an untrained memory. Memory is
Did you know there was a difference between the brain and the mind? Maybe you like me, who gets the opportunity to meet new people every single day. Just the other day, I was speaking in front of a few hundred people, and it's very difficult to remember everyone's name. It's more of a personal touch when you remember everyone's name. There's more credibility that's built up. In fact, what is the number one thing that people love? They love it when you mention their name. In fact, they love it more when you remember their name. Not just names, but also businesses. And what starts to happen because of our daily life, because of social media, because of new people that we're meeting on a daily basis, our brain is so focused on what we can only remember last. And you will have the opportunity to actually learn in this episode from one of the greatest memory experts and brain performance coaches. He is the CEO of Kwik Learning. He's also an individual that was known for the boy with a broken brain. Through adversity, he has turned his mess into his message. I want you to meet Jim Kwik. It's ironic that your last name is Kwik. Do you believe that this is a calling?
I think there's a lot of power in a name and an identity. With a name like Kwik, you could say my life and my destiny was pretty planned out. I had to be a runner back in school, which is a lot of pressure when it says Kwik right on your shirt. I had to be careful when I'm driving because you don't want to get pulled over for speeding, because the worst name to have on your driver's license is the words Kwik, because you're not going to talk your way out of that speeding ticket. And I get to do my dharma, my mission, which is helping people to learn quickly. I think it's one of the most powerful skills to have today, because the faster you can learn, the faster you could earn. Where knowledge is not only power, knowledge is profit. And I don't mean just financial profit, that's obvious, but the more you know, the more you could do in your career, in your relationships, in your health, and so much more.
So you were known, as the boy with the broken brain, or you went through an incident at a very young age of 5 years old. What took place at 5?
So I was in elementary school, in kindergarten, and I had a very bad fall, went headfirst into a radiator. Woke up, I was put in the hospital, and parents said I was never the same after that, my personality and just everything. And what really was apparent was my schooling. I didn't understand things. Teachers would repeat themselves 3, 4, 5 times, and they would get frustrated. So frustrated that when I was 9 years old, and one of my teachers pointed to me in front of the whole class, she was so frustrated. She said, "That's the boy with the broken brain," and that became my label. And we have to be careful with these labels we put on ourselves.
So, most people's mess becomes their message in life.
Ooh.
And at 5 years old, that little incident that took place, the mess that took place that you never asked for, became your message, became your calling. You went through a lot of challenges, but what were some of the challenges you went through? Despite your friends picking on you in class, the
Right.
teachers picking you, what is more of the deeper challenges that got you to where you are right now?
I mean, I think the biggest challenge that most people have, all of us do, is not feeling like we're enough. That somehow we are broken and that we need to be fixed. And it's propagated by media and marketing that says that, take this product or whatever it is, to be able to sell you something. And I think people really need to own how amazing that they are, meaning that we are good enough regardless of what we do or not do, what we become, and then grow from that place. My two biggest challenges growing up were learning and public speaking. And it's interesting. The universe has a sense of humor because all I do now is speak on this thing called learning. And it's positive proof that with challenge comes change, that you could go through struggles, but your struggles could become your superpowers, your strengths, if you're persistent about it and you have an open mind and you're willing to adjust. I believe that difficult times, they could define you, or they could diminish you, or they could develop you. Ultimately, we decide. But adversity, for anyone who's listening to this and they're going through hard times, my heart and my prayers are with you. And sometimes, those things are there to be able to sharpen our saw, to be able to forge something that's better. We hear about post-traumatic stress. We go through trauma and we go through pain. What a lot of people do not hear, which doesn't get a lot of news, is the positive aspects of challenge, that you could go through trauma, but there's something called post-traumatic growth, where some people have gone through adversity. They wouldn't wish it upon anybody else in the world, but they wouldn't change it because they found a mission, they found a strength, they got clarity, they found who they are through that process.
So how do you differentiate the brain and the mind?
Okay, so the brain, for me, the brain is an organ. It's a 3-pound white and gray matter found between your ears. For me, the mind is maybe even, some people see it as comes before the brain, like the mind or the consciousness comes through the brain. Other people feel like that the mind is what the brain does, and it's the expression of it. And there's those two schools of thought. When we're talking about the brain, I like to talk about the brain because it's physiological. When I talk about brain health and the best foods for the brain and how to do the stress management and do all the things to promote better brain power, I think you upgrade your brain so you could upgrade your brand. You upgrade your brain so you could upgrade your business. And you're also your bottom line, your bank account. And so right now, everyone listening to this, this economy is moving from, it's no longer muscle power, it's really that mind power. It's no longer brute strength, it's your brain strength. And that's why it's so important to be able to learn, to be able to retool, to be able to outthink, because in school, they don't teach you that. They teach you what to learn, what to think, what to remember, but not how to learn, how to think, and how to remember.
I mean, your interior becomes your biggest asset. Most people think your exterior becomes your biggest your biggest asset. Most people think I should invest in my exterior, how I look, the type of appearance that I bring to the table. What they don't understand is what you invest in here is what you keep forever. Clothes can go out there and you can wear it out. You can grow bigger. You can literally wear it for 1 month and never wear it again. But your brain, your mind is something that you take on forever. I read an article and I got the chance to watch a documentary on Warren Buffett, and he actually said, if you had one car that you could take up from today till the day you die, just one car, what car would it be?
No, I'm saying, like, I know regardless of what car it is, you would take good care of that car.
Exactly. For the rest of your life. So likewise with your brain, likewise with your mind. What do people lack? How could people forget less?
When they forget less. Yeah, I think two of the most costly words in business and in life are I forgot. I forgot to do it. I forgot to bring it. I forgot that meeting. I forgot what I was going to say. I forgot that conversation. I forgot that person's name. Every time you think those words or say those words, you lose opportunity, you lose credibility, you lose trust. You could even lose a sale also as well. The thing is what everyone needs to know is that there's no such thing as a good or bad memory. There's a trained memory and there's an untrained memory. Memory is not something that is just naturally given to you. It's something that you do. And there's certain things you could do to be able to remember names in business, to be able to memorize product information, to be able to give a sales speech or do a sales video without referring to notes. And think about like how amazing that makes you look. It shows you are an expert. You know what you're doing. When you remember things in business, remembering names is so important. It's the number one business etiquette networking skill there is, because how are you going to show someone you're going to care for their business, their future, their family, their health, whatever it is you're selling them, if you don't care enough just to remember them? And so that's why it's really important, but it's a trainable skill. And a lot of times, if you look at somebody and just say, hey, you got to focus, but if they never learned how to focus, it's like going to someone saying, play the piano, who's never taken a class on how to play the piano. So focus, memory, learning are all skills that we could increase, just like it'd be, the ability to be able to learn how to type.
Old school individuals would generally get out a book and a pen and write down and document notes. When you take the word learn and you start to learn enough and eventually you remove the L, you start to earn enough.
Ooh, I like that.
And, when I look at it, most people don't write down notes nowadays. They're busy typing out notes from their phone, transferring it to their PC, laptop. How do you write down notes efficiently?
Yeah, so it's better actually, it's been shown in research studies, it's better to actually handwrite notes if you're capable of doing that. Obviously if it's just typing, then do it. The worst way of taking notes, research universities show that it's pure dictation. So it's actually you having full transcripts of whatever the teacher or the speaker is saying. That's the worst way because there's pages and pages of information, but you don't know what's most valuable. The reason why handwriting notes is especially valuable is because they find it better than typing because you can't write that fast. So it forces you to filter out the most important information and to focus on that. So you have a natural filtration system where you're only capturing the information that's most important to you that you could use. I also encourage people when they're taking notes, when they come to events like Winning Edge, to fold a sheet in half, and on the left side you take notes. So you write down the things you're learning on how to be, a millionaire student, on how to be a great networker, on how to sell things on Amazon, on how to learn to read faster. You're writing instructions on the left side, but on the right side, you're not taking notes, you're making notes. And those are your impressions of what you're taking notes. So on the left side, you're capturing information. On the right side, you're being creative about it. You're writing, how am I going to use this? How does this relate to what I already know? When am I going to apply this into my business and into my life? But the importance of taking notes and building good memories, because there's a forgetting curve. We all know there's a learning curve. If you want to learn sales or network marketing or anything, you have to be able to learn and you want to cut that learning curve. But there's also a forgetting curve. When you learn something, science says that within 48 hours, 80% of it is gone. And that's why it's important to have a good memory, because you don't want to spend time reading something and listening to something and forgetting it the next day.
Society's perception is teach someone who's mature, who can allow the information to sink in. The issue is, people who are mature, people who are a bit older, they have past baggage. Mm-hmm. And then you have a child who has no paradigms, no habits. Yeah. Who do you enjoy working with more? And most importantly, how difficult is it to take an adult and reset that paradigm?
Yeah, I find that regardless of chronological age, really what I'm looking for is the age of people's mind and their spirit and their heart. I know somebody who is 94 years old, but is like the youngest old person that I know, because that's how they live their life. They're very playful. They're willing to make mistakes. The challenge is like when we grow older, regardless of our age, your brain needs to be worked out just like our body, and you have to give it novelty to create what they call neurogenesis and neuroplasticity, new brain cells birthing, and also new connections, because those are new ideas and new innovations for your life and for your business. The challenge is sometimes as we grow older, we feel like we know it all and our cup is full and we don't learn anything brand new. But your mind is like a parachute, as they say. It only works when it's opened. And I find that having a beginner's mind is so important. What keeps you from mastery, what keeps you from earning the fortune and the treasures you desire and deserve, I believe the treasures you're looking for, it's hidden in the work that you're avoiding. And a lot of times what keeps us from mastery is saying, I know this already. A lot of times they're like, oh, I've heard this already. I know that principle. I read it before. But if they're not applying it, I feel like they do not know it, because knowledge, it's a myth. Knowledge really isn't power. Knowledge is potential power. It only becomes power when we utilize it. All the books and podcasts and radio shows and conferences, none of it works unless we work. So, what I like to do is for all the millions of people who are listening to this right now, remind you that don't learn just for learning's sake. Learn, don't keep it in your head, get it in your hands. And if you want a tip on how to activate, going from your head to your hands, there's a second H in between, which is your heart. Remember why you're doing this, right? Start, as Simon Sinek talks about, start with why. Ask yourself, why do I want to learn this? Why do I want to remember the person's name? Because reasons reap results. Reasons reap rewards.
In Buddhism, there's a word called Sashin, which comes from the beginner's mind. It's so ironic how individuals, as they start to know more, they go out there and realize, hey, I don't want to be a student anymore. I want to start to become the teacher. And that's why we developed this show called the Millionaire Student Show, because we wanted people to understand everyone wants to become that millionaire. The problem is they're not willing to stay in student mode to maintain and sustain millionaire status when they achieve it.
I would say that focus is a superpower today in a world full of distraction, app notifications, social media alerts. How are you going to get through your to-dos if you don't have focus and you don't have completion to follow through? At any given time, there's a billion stimulus that could gather your attention. What determines your focus are the things you have questions about. And I feel like we have a dominant question that's always pressing in our mind.
Firstly, how should one cut through the clutter, focus, and succeed in today's world?
I would say that focus is a superpower today in a world full of distraction, app notifications, social media alerts. How are you going to get through your to-dos if you don't have focus and you don't have completion to follow through? At any given time, there's a billion stimulus that could gather your attention. What determines your focus are the things you have questions about. And I feel like we have a dominant question that's always pressing in our mind. Some people, it's how do I get people to like me? Other people, it's like, how do I add the most amount of value to the world? I want you to control your questions. So the key is questions are the answer. Ask and you shall receive. And you really want to control the quality of your questions. If you ask questions like, how come I'm always broke? You're going to come up with those answers. You're going to, even if they're not true. Oh, because I'm lazy. Oh, because I'm not smart enough. But if you ask questions like, how do I reach my 10-year goal in the next 6 months? You're also going to get some unique answers. So to control your focus, because focus is key, because where your focus goes, energy flows. Ask yourself, what's the most powerful way I could use this moment in time? I always tell people the most important thing is to keep the most important thing the most important thing. There's a great book by Dr. Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And one of the habits of the most effective people is put first things first. First things first. You don't want to climb the ladder of success and be busy and busy and busy, work really, really hard to climb that ladder just to get to the top and realize the ladder is leaning on the wrong wall. So put the first things first. And you want to be able to think about my friend Clay calls them champagne moments. In sports, there's very clear reasons why people celebrate and open that champagne because they won. Well, what's your champagne moment? When do you know that you win? If somebody, at the end of life, like when are you going to be celebrating? What had to happen? And then work backwards for that. Because how are you going to plan your day if you don't have a plan for your life? And even your day, imagine you're coming home and somebody asks you, how was your day? And you said, I crushed it. I won today. I have the winning edge. What has to happen in order for you to feel that way? What are the 1, 2, 3 things that you had to accomplish? And then work for those goals. Forget about the 200 things you have on your to-do list. Focus on the things that matter. The most important thing is to keep the most important thing the most important thing.
So would you sum it up by saying the majority of life is psychological? At least 80+% of life is psychological, whilst most people want to focus on 80% of life being the mechanics, the how-tos.
I would agree with you, Sashin. I think 80% of success is psychology, it's mindset, because the truth is most of us know what to do, but we don't do what we know. We know the things we should be doing. We should be, making a vision statement. We should be able to work out every day. We should be reading and feeding our mind every single day. We should be making 100, prospecting calls every single day. We know what to do, but common sense is not common practice. Common sense is not common practice. And the difference that makes the difference, ideas, if we're honest, are a dime a dozen. Ideas mean nothing. Everybody has ideas. It all comes to execution.
What are a few powerful hacks to unlock your super brain so you can learn faster, retain more, and forget less?
Okay, so I would recommend everyone think about this acronym FAST, F-A-S-T, really quickly. If you want to learn anything faster, get the most out of your brain, the F is we already talked about, forget. If you want, you're like, Jim, you're the memory expert. Why do you want to forget? You want to forget what you already know about a subject so you can learn something new. You empty your cup. You also want to forget about situational things. If you're learning something brand new, you got to forget about distractions. If something comes into your mind, write it down so you don't have to focus on it, so you can release it, but you got to let that go. And then finally, you want to forget about your limitations. A lot of people are suffering from learned helplessness. This idea where something happened to us and we learned like we can't do something and we're fearful of making mistakes. You want to forget about that. The A in FAST, in order to achieve more, to learn faster, to achieve more, A is you want to be active in the process. A lot of people treat learning and life and business like a spectator sport. They're just there just to watch. And you can't just watch and scroll through Instagram, and Facebook. You're not going to, you think while you're seeing positive things, nothing happens positive in your life. And so you want to be active in this. So you want to get involved. You want to roll up your sleeves. You want to take notes. You want to find mentors, and be active, because learning in life is not a spectator sport. So how can you be more active? By taking action. The S in FAST stands for state. If you want to get more out of your brain power and achieve more success, all learning and success is state dependent, meaning we are emotional creatures. We do not buy logically, we buy emotionally, because we're not logical, we're biological. Think about the dopamine, the oxytocin, the serotonin, the endorphins, all these chemicals that get us to do things because we feel a certain way. And you need to control your state. All of sales is a transfer of emotion. As long as there's trust and there's rapport, whoever feels the most is going to impact the other person, right? And so put yourself in a state of feeling and emotion, and you control it through your psychology and your physiology. Just changing your posture and putting a smile on your face and thinking positive thoughts, you're going to have more influence than somebody who is just static. And then finally, the T in FAST stands for teach. If you want to be the best teachers are the best students, and the best students are also the best teachers, because you want to learn with the intention of teaching somebody else. Because if you had to re-listen to this conversation and give a presentation on it the next day, your focus would be better. You would take better notes. You would ask better questions. You would own that information, integrate it into your being, and then share it with somebody else, because if you have to teach it, you get to learn it twice. And I feel like that's part of our mission. And this is why, I'm a big fan and follower of yours, because you learn to earn to return. And part of that return comes from teaching and paying it forward.
Jim, you've worked with some of the greatest minds out there, change makers of today's world, such as Elon Musk. You've worked very closely with people like Michelle Obama. I've seen you hanging out with, actors, actresses. What do they all have in common?
The common theme that you'll see with high achievers, cognitive performers, people that achieve at the highest level is, first of all, they're lifelong learners. All of them. They're not there by accident. You don't fall to the top of the mountain, right? So they know in order for their brand to grow, their business to grow, that they need to grow. And I think it's very important to grow your mind, because again, your mind, your brain controls everything. So number one, they're lifelong learners. But number two, also, they don't only have growth, they have grit. Meaning it's a growth mindset, but it's also a grit mindset, meaning they do the difficult things. So many people in life are looking for the easy way out. And if you just do the easy things in life, procrastinate, put things off, then life becomes difficult. But if you do the difficult things in life becomes a lot easier. The thing is, with your brand and your business, I know we have a lot of entrepreneurs listening, it takes time. In the beginning, you're grossly underpaid. Right? But then eventually, as you go, and you have to feed your business, you have to feed your dream until your dream feeds you back, right? So in the beginning, you're underpaid, but when it switches, you're grossly overpaid and over-rewarded, and you get to live a life. When you do the things that other people don't do or aren't willing to do, you can live a life few people can. And so I would say what they exhibit, the high achievers, they have growth and they have grit. And it's not just persistence. If you're persistent, you can achieve it. But if you're consistent, you get to keep it. And they are consistently pushing themselves to do more difficult things. The worst thing that they could do is settle. and just get safe. Because in today's world, it's very risky to play it safe. The same things that get you there aren't going to get you to where you need to go. So if failure is not an option, then neither is success.
So when I look at entrepreneurs, especially people in sales, the easiest way to gain credibility is by remembering someone's name. And most importantly, mentioning their name multiple times throughout that conversation. So what are some of the tips and techniques and advice would you give entrepreneurs on how people could actually remember other entrepreneurs or maybe their clients or maybe their guests' names?
Sashin, that's a great question. And I think that, again, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So remembering names, they say that a name is the sweetest sound to a person's ears, right? You think about the emotion that it garners. And so it's so important. And so I would say a couple of quick tips. Remember this. You want to be suave. Next time you're at an event, you're checking yourself in the mirror, you're looking at your makeup or what you're wearing. I want you to say to yourself, I'm going to be suave. Be stands for believe. If you believe you can or believe you can't, either way, you're right. So stop saying that you're not good at doing this. Your brain is like a supercomputer and your self-talk is a program that will run. So if you tell yourself you're not good at remembering names, you will not remember the name of the next person you meet because you program your supercomputer not to. So you need to believe. And so even if you catch yourself saying, oh, I don't have a good memory, just correct it with yet. I don't have a great memory yet. Right? So if you knew how truly powerful your mind was, you wouldn't say, think, or feel something you didn't want to be true. So monitor, take responsibility for your self-talk. The E in Be Suave stands for exercise. And I don't mean physical exercise, although people who are more physically active have better mental acuity, they have better focus, they have better memory. So exercise every day, I would say, and move every day. I would say practice, because practice makes progress. And I'm great at remembering names, but I didn't start out that way. I had my learning challenges just like everybody else. But after practicing it for about 21, 30 days, 66 days, I got good and I haven't gotten much better. It's just like when you learn how to type or you learn how to drive or you learn how to tie your shoes, you know how to do it. And it's a skill and it's a habit. So I would say practice it until it becomes unconscious and second nature. The suave, so that's the B and the E, the believe and exercise. The suave, S, you meet somebody, you say their name. As soon as you hear it, you repeat it and say it back because that means you're paying attention and you get to hear it twice. The U is you use the name in the conversation. And so, Ken, it's nice to meet you. Ken, you don't abuse it. Don't use it 20 times. Just use it 3 or 4 times in the conversation. That helps you to retain it with your verbal memory. And then the A in suave, it's really great. Ask. Because what's everyone's favorite subject? It's not entrepreneurship. It's not personal development. It's not travel. It's not even money. It's themselves. So if you meet somebody and their name is a little different, like a name you haven't heard before, what can you ask about a person's name? Where's it from? How do you spell it? Are you related to this person? Who are you named after? What does it mean, right? And so you could ask about a person's name. Finally, the V and the E in suave. The V is visualize a person's name. And this is a little mnemonic tip where it helps sometimes to come up with a word that sounds a little bit like the person's name. It's similar to when you forget someone's name, you go through the alphabet. Does it start with an A? Does it start with a B? You get nervous when you get to like W because there's not many letters after that. But sometimes if you meet somebody and you come up with a word that sounds like the person's name, right? And so, Sashin could be like a sash, right? Ken could be a can. And so you come up with something for Jim. It could be like going to the gym or something like that. And then finally, the E in suave stands for end. It's very important that you end the conversation saying their name. Because if you could say goodbye, if you could go into a room with 20 strangers and leave saying goodbye to every single one of them using their name, who are they all going to remember? They're all going to remember you. And that's a standout skill because it's not just what you know. Yes, you can learn faster and learn your expertise and what you know. It's not only who you know, who you remember, but it's also who remembers you.
Jim, I've seen you post on social media multiple times about wishing people happy birthday.
Yeah.
Celebrities, friends, family. Is that something you've just remembered or is that something you actually document?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things, and I'm all for having technology, and I think it's nice to have reminders, and I think everybody here could do that and have reminders and follow-ups. A lot of people, my memory's not perfect. I don't, while people have seen me at events memorize names, 100 people's names or numbers or words, I tell people I don't do this to impress you. I do this to express to you what's possible, because the truth is we all could do this and more. We just need to be shown. own. But I think it's very important to remember certain things about a person. Nobody is perfect because we all have lives and things that are going on. But to the ability we could connect with people at a personal level, I really think ultimately that's what it comes down to: your head, your heart, and your hands.
So, learners are earners, readers are leaders. You teach people how to read a book a week. That's 52 books every single year.
Yeah.
What are some of the tips, techniques, and advice in speed reading or maximizing that book throughout that
Yeah.
week?
I mean, we mentioned that one of the key patterns of genius and successful people is they all love to learn. And I think the most powerful way to learn is still through reading. Reading is to your mind what exercise is to your body. So we should read every single day, even just to read, to learn new things, but also to train your brain, to keep it young, to keep it fresh and focused and agile. You don't want flabby brain muscles. And so one of the things you could do is, first of all, just schedule your reading. If you want to read a book a week, it sounds intimidating, but the average book, according to Amazon, has about 64,000 words. The average person reads about 200 words per minute. So if you divide those two numbers together, it takes about 320 minutes to get through a book. Now that sounds like a lot, right? 320 minutes. But if you divide it by 7 days in a week, that's about 45 minutes a day. In 45 minutes a day, you could get through a book a week. So it's actually very doable. You know, sitting down 45 minutes, maybe 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there. And what does it give you? It gives you an advantage. You know, when you know something other people don't know, if somebody has decades of experience and they put it into a book, and you could sit down in an afternoon or a day or in a week and read that book, you could download decades into days. And that's your biggest competitive advantage. The truth is, not everybody has equal resources. That's the truth. Not everybody has equal education. Not everybody has equal network. Not everybody has equal money in their bank account. Not everyone has equal income. What everybody has equal is the amount of time they have. 24 hours in a day, 86,400 seconds in a day. And how you invest that into long-term, investment in terms of the return of what it's going to bring back into you in terms of income, in terms of impact, in terms of influence. So I would say the best way, and people could, find our videos online and our podcast and everything for reading tips. But the most important thing is to schedule it, because if you don't schedule it, it does not get done. Everybody talks about it and it becomes a dream. Everybody talks about all the goals and everything. But if we're just talking about it, nothing happens until it's the most powerful productivity performance tool we own is our calendar, right? Open up your phone and you put meetings in there. You put client meetings, customer prospecting meetings, you put your doctor's appointment, but put your personal growth in there also, because if it's not there, it comes last, and often you just forget about it.
Jim Kwik, brain expert, undoubtedly one of the number one brain coaches in today's world. Jim, from everything you've just mentioned, my recap is the perception of the real world believes that you need to have an A or B to master the art of utilizing your brain. Everything you've mentioned was practical. Everything you've mentioned was the how-tos. So someone like me, who's an absolute D student, someone listening right now who didn't, finish up on the top of the class, A, B, or even a C, they still have hope.
Yeah, I often find that it's been my experience with working with a lot of founders that a lot of the C and D students are the ones that start the companies, and the A students end up working for them. It's not how smart you are, it's how are you smart, right? School system globally, the biggest challenge is you go through it and everyone goes through it and only a small percentage come out quote unquote successful. And that other percentage, which is the masses that I fell into and most people fall into, the implication is, oh, there's something wrong with you if you didn't conform to what that automation is. And the challenge is our school system we live in an age of electric cars, spaceships that are going to Mars, but how people learn and their education is like a horse and carriage. So that's why it's important that people are listening to this show, that they're constantly improving themselves, that self-education becomes a priority, because you can't rely on just traditional education, because traditional education gets you traditional results. And if you're listening to this show, you don't want traditional.
Thank you so much for being on the Millionaire Student Show. Thank you for your advice and your techniques. We appreciate your time.
Thanks, Sashin.